Hi, and welcome everybody. Sean Thompson, spiritual counselor and psychic medium, owner of Inner Healing, and the owner of Conversations Across the Veil, which is a private Facebook group that I have, mostly centered around those who have lost a loved one. Also, we talk about topics related to spirituality, metaphysics, understanding the afterlife, and what all of that is about. So today, I have invited a friend of mine. Her name is Mary Jo Heyen, and she is an author, a teacher, a natural dreamwork practitioner. She specializes in the field of visions and dreams, not only of the living, but of the dying as well. And so I thought, what better person to invite and give a specialized interview to, for the sake of my group members who always have tons of questions that they have regarding dreams of the living and the dying. But I thought I would invite Mary Jo here today so she could shed some of the light and some of her work and some of her experiences and insights as it relates to dreaming, visitation from the dearly departed, and her work in hospice. So Mary Jo, welcome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Sean. It's always, as you'll see in a few minutes, I love to speak about dreams and all kinds of dreams. And I do want to acknowledge the beautiful work that you're doing in reading what you send out to your folks, the newsletters, the way you speak, the presence, the love, the clarity. So I am very thrilled to be here with you. And thank you, everyone that's tuning in today or later. I always appreciate that.
Yes, thank you. So I'm glad you're here today. I get so many questions about dreams and how they relate to losing a loved one. And, I have somewhat some experience. When I was in college, I took several dream classes, and I actually got hooked up to the electrodes and went into the dream lab for 3 days in a row, where you dream and you dream all night long, and they wake you up when you're in the REM stage, and they record your dreams, and then we would dissect them in class the next day. And so it's always been fascinating, to me. And I do know that dreams in general, it's its own world. As I was talking to you earlier, it's a relationship that you have with your dream. It's valuable because it brings so many lessons and insights from your subconscious of your inner world to your outer world, and your outer world also implants lessons and information in your inner world. So there's a beautiful dynamic that happens when you're having a dream. And so tell us a little bit about your background as it relates to the kind of work that you do with the visions and the dreams of the dying and the dearly departed specifically. Tell us a little bit about your background and what got you interested in it, and what you'd like to share about that.
Thank you. So I have been working with dreamers around the world, around the country, and I will call them mainstream dreamers of all ages, of all backgrounds. So that is, and I do interviews and workshops, but the heart of my work is one-on-one, as you'll hear very much as I approach my work with hospice. And so I had been working with dreamers for a number of years, but I've always, my whole life, been interested in my dreams. As you, again, you can read about that, and meditation. So with the dying. So I called our local hospice and spoke with their chaplain at the time, a fantastic woman who was immediately interested. This is unusual. Immediately interested in knowing what I would do with their those in hospice and their families and grief groups with regards to dreams. And so I've been doing that for almost 6 years now. This past year has been very painful because of the pandemic, and we volunteers are not, we can't be with the families. So I hope that'll change soon. So what I do is part of our hospice team here is when the families come on to hospice, they're told all the different supports. It's a wonderful team. And now there's this added layer of, and we have a dream specialist.
Mhm.
Would you like to speak with them? And so when the families request, whether it's the patient, whether it's a family member, I will come in and work with their dreams. And that it's just been a great privilege in my life to do this.
Well, I can imagine, and it takes a very loving and compassionate person to hold the space, not only for someone who is dying, but also for the living. Um, the person who passes into the light, everything is rejuvenated for them in that moment and beyond. And it's the living, the grieving, that have to go through the healing process and have to continue to grow and experience and move through that loss, which brings us to dreams. I love that you said that you have seen in your years of experience in working with dreams that there's probably no dream that you have dissected that doesn't deal with grief and loss on some level, some capacity. And that's so true, because a lot of people, when they think about grieving or grief, they think about it's because they lost a loved one, which is primarily the case. However, you can deal with grief and loss on multiple levels. From being a counselor for 20 plus years, we're always having to accept and surrender situations in our life, whether it be through a divorce, a job loss, a relocation, that has to deal with grief and loss. And so the neat thing about dreams is that it really is that medicine that brings the gift of a message to help you work through some sort of grief or loss or problem that you may have in your dream state, to bring it up and out of you so that you can look at it and heal. So tell me what you've seen and what your take on as far as dreams and how it relates to helping you through grief and loss. Tell me a little bit about your take on that.
Great. And so I like what you said. I like how you framed it. And when I meet with someone for the very first time, I might not do this in hospice. This is a much more intense situation. But when I meet with someone, I try to just kind of simplify and say, every night, even the most mundane dream, is coming to help us understand how our inner self and our outer self are or aren't in alignment. And we can use words like soul, whatever someone's comfortable with. I lean towards soul very much. And whether we had the most wonderful life in the world, which I don't know how many of us did, or we have trauma, and I work with many people that have had trauma, regardless, just by taking birth, that connection to soul is perhaps forgotten. It's not cut, it's not lost, but we forget it. And that's what, to refer back to what you said. So we have this ineffable sense in our life. Something's missing. Something's not, there's a bit of a loss, and we can't name it, but the dreams can. They know where that loss is. And that's what they do each night. So it could be just something where you're doing dishes at the sink, but there's something in that dream that is unique, personal. I think dream dictionaries are terrific because it means you're interested in dreams. But the way I was trained to work with dreams and the way I do work with dreams is very unique and impeccable for the dreamer. There's great dream schools out there, so many ways of stepping into a dream. And the way I do with the dreams, and I trust the dreams, they are my teachers. How are we in or out of alignment? The dreams will show us that. And then it's our choice. Nothing's forced upon us. And so they want to help bring us back into relationship with the deepest part of who we are.
Yes, I agree. And, that relationship when you're taking a dream and wanting to dissect it is so sacred. And I always tell people, you need to make an appointment with your dream or with your dearly departed to sit and have a conversation and really gain that medicine and what it has to offer you for healing. Because a lot of people will think, oh, I had this dream, and they tell it and they say, it was so confusing. Tell me what it means. And I share with them, you can't just get the answer or get that message within a 5-minute conversation. I mean, it really takes some time to sit and look at the images, right? That invoke feelings and what they mean for you, the symbols that come through, whether it's numbers, whether it's a lake that may be tailored to emotional healing, and to really put that storyline together. You would need at least 45 minutes, I think, to break down and decode a dream. And so try not to, I always tell people, try not to be so flippant and throw your dream out on the table and say, tell me what it means. Give it some time to divulge itself, to really express and flower the deep inner message that it's bringing up for you, so that you can heal that aspect. It's there for a reason. You really don't just have random dreams. They're all there to come and tell you a story, to invite you into whatever healing you're needing for the moment. And this can be a healing from way back when that you had a traumatic experience, or it could be a healing that's needed from a conversation that happened during this day that is saying, come with me, it's now time for you to go a little deeper. So can you talk a little bit about your experience in not taking a dream at face value and really giving it its glory, right? In dissecting it so that you can put the symbols and the images and the meanings together for a more accurate storyline?
Yes. One thing I would start with is the word humility. Whenever I step into a session with someone beforehand, I have butterflies.
Mm.
I have a sense of where to go in the dream, but I don't, I have to be willing to not know. It's their dream.
Oh, I
What
got
I
goosebumps.
what I do have an ability to do, and I actually train people to become natural dream work practitioners, is I do know where to go look in a dream. I know where to be nosy and ask questions where something might be hidden between two words in a shift, our dream shift. What was right before that shift that maybe we didn't want to feel? So dreams, and I want to fit this in while I'm remembering it, there's outer world reality, and dreams are not a reality.
Right.
They are a different reality, but they're a reality. They are their own realm. And one of the things we do to children, one of the things that happens so much in hospice, and it's well intended, but we're told it's only a dream. And when we tell someone it's only a dream, then we're saying their feelings don't matter, because they know they felt whatever they were feeling. And I don't think I'm answering your question, am I?
Well, so no, I think that was important to validate, especially with kids, because coming from the psychic medium perspective, kids are so in tuned, they're so intuitive, and what they see sometimes, which is a dearly departed standing at their bedside at 3 years old or 7 years old, feels like a dream to them, but it's really real. And it's typically dismissed because it's in the woo-woo category of imaginary friends, or you're seeing things. And so growing up, they learn that, oh, that was just a dream that I saw Aunt Josie standing at the bedside, and it's really not. They're real. But then when you move into the discussion of dreaming at night, and then you wake up and you have a storyline of someone that you loved, which, talking about the little kids, that would be a visit. And then we move over to the dream category of, we have a odd dream that doesn't make sense to us, and so we tell someone something about our dream and say, figure it out, what does that mean? There's a lot more that goes into that type of dream than an actual visit. And so there's probably a lot of confusion growing up from kids into adulthood as to the difference between a dream and a visit. But what I was asking you mostly is how do you help people understand that it takes some time to decode a dream? It's not just, I had a dream I was making coffee and all of a sudden I was swimming in this lake and I was naked and then I had to go to school the next day. So that's a confusing dream, right?
Okay.
What would it be like what would you have to do to decode that dream instead of just taking it at face value?
So let me respond in a general way. And again, there's many schools, many approaches, and I think they're all wonderful. Dreams are made of images,
Mhm.
and images carry feelings. And that's how I go into a dream. If we could be with that image. And what I, just a real brief example, I worked with somebody new a couple weeks ago. The opening line, and she was in her 30s, I'm riding my bike with my sister. Those few words, we stopped there. Now as adults, what came out was she doesn't have time with her sister anymore. She doesn't ride bikes anymore. Back to the word loss. There was grief. And the dream wants to help us feel feelings we've lost connection to. We all learned early. Some feelings are okay to have, some feelings aren't okay to have. And the dreams want to, and I'll bring back the word soul, they want to bring us home to our capacity. And for me, this is a definition of soul, to feel our love and our pain. If I won't feel my pain, then I won't get the depth of my love. It's not a la carte. If I won't feel my grief and my sorrow, I won't get the depth of my joy. And so night after night, in the most seemingly mundane dream, comes this invitation to the depth of who we are. And then and it takes time. We've been here a while. We've had a lot happen in our lives. And then dream by dream, we start to return to this relationship with ourselves, the deepest parts of who we are. It changes our relationships with those in our lives. And then whatever we would call the numinous or the divine. And then that's how we are in the world, from that place.
Well, I love how you
Not from the
presented that, because what you're basically saying is if you try to take the dream at face value, or if you don't hold the space for your dream to share the message with you, which will invoke a feeling, which ultimately leads to the healing, you miss the opportunity and the whole delivery of what the dream was for. And it can easily be interpreted the wrong way. I hear a lot of people saying, I had a bad dream or a negative dream, and then it scares them or it makes them worry. Is my loved one not okay? Or why would they be telling me this? Or they told me the time of my death. Is that really when I'm going to die? And if you don't take the time to really feel yourself in that dream and what it invoked in you and be willing to go there with your dream, you can stay with that face value and it's going to scare the crap out of you, and you're going to stress and you're going to worry, and you will have missed the opportunity for growth. And so let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the messages of what you would get when you would have what you would deem as a negative or a bad dream of a loved one that's passed, and what might really be going on under the surface, and what's really trying to come out if you're willing to go there and to be vulnerable and sit in humility to hear the answer for what that dream's trying to share with you, or the message. So I shared an example. One of my members in Conversations Across the Veil gave us a beautiful example of her dream that I kind of want you to break up in general terms that may shed some light on how to look at a dream that may feel negative, but whose real purpose for presenting itself was to allow you to maybe release some fear or some of that grief or loss that consciously you really didn't want to deal with. But subconsciously, it's saying it's time. You're strong enough to deal with. Here's the storyline. Let's take a look at it. So, do you want to describe the example of the dream that I gave you so that we could break it down in a general sense?
Sure, sure. I do want to bring in the word medicine because this is what in natural dream work we say every dream has a medicine, and the medicine is the feeling that we
Ah,
recover. We take the medicine, and let's say it's fear. Can you take a little bit of just taste it? I always say to my clients, can you just sip it a bit? Because we want to turn away. We think we can't do it, but the
right.
dream wouldn't bring it if we couldn't. And so there's a medicine, and at end of life in hospice, there's a different kind of medicine that's needed now. The traditional medicines aren't working.
Hmm.
The medical community doing all that they can finally has to say, no, we can't do anymore. But now there's another medicine afoot. And so with what we might call a bad dream, a negative dream, a nightmare,
Mm.
I would more say is more of an intense dream. And it very much wants our attention. A nightmare just really wants us to pay attention and and yet it's scary. And that's why it helps to have someone help you walk
Hmm.
through that.
Hmm.
So with the dream that Sean shared with me, and I'll read it here in a moment, while I don't have the dreamer here, I will share where I would go and look for what's the feeling here versus there's a story, we call it the narrative, and that's usually by our ego. And I don't mean the like egotistical, but our outer world ego that's been very conditioned. And then in the dream is also our soul point of view. So are we in the dream from soul, and less so in the beginning, but as we work with our dreams, the conditioned ego starts to loosen its grip. And we
Okay.
say, oh, okay. So I'll go ahead and read this dream. This is what Sean sent to me. I had a very disturbing dream with my mom. I was scared of something in my dream. And then I heard a knock on my front door. So I went and opened the door, and it was my mom. She had dirt all over her, and she had like a sheet covering just half of her body. She went straight to my son's room and laid down. So there's the dream. So I can imagine very much it's disturbing. If you're seeing your mom covered in dirt in a sheet right there, it's upsetting. But we want to go underneath. What's underneath? What are these images bringing to her? So the dream, I slow the dream down. I mean, we just in a session with someone, they may have sent me 15 dreams. We may work one, we may work two, but we're going not for the breadth of eating it up like popcorn. We want to go for the depth of each dream. And so I was scared of something. So I'd stop her right there and say, well, can we stop here for a moment? What do you know what you're scared of? She's probably going to say no. I don't know because I'm not with
Right.
her here. Do you know what you're scared of? Where do you feel that in your body? Where do you feel fear in your body? And if she can feel into that, I'd say, well, where do you know that in your life? Is that a familiar feeling? And for many people, it can take a few moments. We keep these things pushed down, and what we have to give some space for it to rise. They may say no. They may say, yeah, I feel it here. Or 2 days after session, they may go, oh, that's what it is. And that's this way that we could call it the alchemy. I just have questions. I do not claim any authority in your dream at all. That would be a disrespect to the dreams. So then I heard a knock on my front door, and she went, and it was her mom. I'm going to come back there in a moment.
Okay.
She felt her fear. And a lot of us don't know. We'll just say, a mountain lion's chasing me. And I was fine. I said, hi, kitty. Really? Sean and I live in mountain lion country.
Right.
Renee's here too. We're not going to go hi, kitty. And so we've learned to dismiss our feelings. And the dreams want to say, no, what would this really be? So she felt her fear. And this touched me very much. Dreams are a responsive field. Our experience is they don't come in as a full script. They're not already written. Now just play out the dream in your mind. What we do in the dream responds. She felt her fear. I'm getting tears here. She felt her fear, and there was a knock at the door. And who was it? Her mom. Can we just all take, because I'm feeling it. Can we stop for a moment and just see that in her mom came?
Comfort.
Yeah. Her mom. I mean, imagine we just feel our fear and mom shows up. And I don't know the dynamic with her mom, and all of these things are unknowns, but there's the mom. And I went and opened the door, and it was my mom. She has dirt in a sheet. Again, I slow it down. Before we look at the dirt in the sheet, can you open, and the gestures bring us into our bodies. We're meant to be, we're in the human experience. Let's be in our bodies. Let's not bypass. Let's not transcend. Let's be in our bodies. Let's be in our souls. So I would have her feel the gesture of opening the door, and you see your mom. And what's that like for you? Can you just take a moment there and to leave space for something? Then she, and I'm actually, may feel to all of you, I'm moving slowly, but I'm actually moving fast.
Right.
So now she sees her mom covered in dirt and a sheet. I would want to know, so this isn't, the dreams aren't happenstance images.
Right.
And so what is that when you see, and would open that up? What's the sheet? Is she naked, covered in a sheet? Is it the burial cloth? Is there a sense of being from the grave? I wouldn't ask her, is it the sense from the grave? I'm just doing this here. I would let I use the dreamers. I don't say this is what it is. I don't
I think that's really important. And I love that you said you're not the authority of the dream, because like you mentioned, you don't know the dynamic of that person and the relationship with mom. So I want to go back to, I said, oh, you see mom, and that's comfort. That could be incorrect. That was my interpretation, right? Because if you had a bad relationship with your mom, that might not mean comfort. And so really going into that personal, unique feeling of what that image invokes in you is where that medicine is. And so it's, especially people in the service industry, we want to jump in and help. We want to help fix or guide or, give the answer sometimes. And that's not the medicine. The medicine is what is coming up for you that you're ready to heal and deal with. So I wanted to correct myself on that of what it meant for me, and to honor the experience for the person who had the dream. Right. So go ahead.
Beautiful. And I will add to that. And I love that you heard that and caught it. So take a line from any dreams. I'm in my childhood home. We can't assume that's a good place.
Right. They may have been physically, sexually abused in that home versus nurtured.
We have to be in the I call it the don't know place. I have to have the ground soft under my feet. So the mom has the sheet and the dirt all over her. And so what is that? And so this is probably the part that's disturbing to the dreamer. I'm guessing. I don't know and it might be the visit as well. And so I would really slow this down. Just look at your mom. Here's a question I would ask. And Sean was saying this earlier. Is it a visitation, or is it a dream with the image of the deceased person? In a dream like this, whenever there's a deceased person, they said, in the dream, did you know they were deceased? That's a good tell. In the dream, when you were, and then sometimes they'll say, oh, no, they were this and that. And then it might not be the visitation as much as, I think it's in one of the Jewish texts. They say the angels will put on any garment to teach you. And so maybe the angels, whatever word someone wants, your inner teachers, puts on the garment of your loved one to teach you a lesson.
That's so good. That's true.
Because the love may already be there if there's love. So we don't have to climb that little mountain.
It may be a softer approach.
That's right. Trust may be there. So often I'm very grateful in the dream, because I think, okay, whoever came in the dream, I don't have to do any heavy lifting. They already trust this person.
Ah, that's a good one. That's a good
Versus
one.
trying to learn that this person is trustworthy, whoever the teacher is. So do you know, I would ask her, do you know if that your mom in the dream was deceased? And if she says yes, then I would lean more towards this unique kind of dream, right? The visitation and the dirt and all over her body. And again, I don't know what the dreamer would say, but I would want to move towards how very vulnerable, how much desire your mom is to come to you in this way, that she wants to get to you. And I would also slow it down and say, can you take a look at your mom's face? Does she look distressed? Oftentimes they go, no, she's calm. And she might be distressed. And that so we follow that lead. I would say it's like the dreamer and I go back in the dream and it's a cave and I have a lantern. I kind of know where to look. That's about all.
Well, right. And that's helpful to know, because when somebody, drops a dream in front of you and asks the question, what does it mean? We have to shine a little bit of light on what the storyline is, to differentiate between, is it a dream that can teach us a lesson or leads us to the watering hole for healing? Or is it a visit that will typically come with one of three messages? And I'll go into that here momentarily. And then once we figure out in the navigation of where we're going to go with the dream, it can be held up for process to learn and grow and heal from it. Or it can move into the category of having that relationship with your loved one who's passed on a different level than just the dream state lesson relationship. So yes, so thank you for bringing that up to the surface. Now, in looking at that dream, do you have anything else to share with that?
Yes, yeah. I'm gonna. So again, I would want to know the mom's demeanor, because she's showing up on her doorstep. And again, I want to say again, the dreamer felt her fear. Somebody responded. If we're in control, managing our lives, it's really hard to get through to us because we've got these structures and walls. There needs to be a little bit of a softening, and that's scary. It's not easy. So the mom goes straight to the son's room and lays down. I would want to know about this boy. How old is he? What's going on for him? Is there something back to the beginning of the dream that is there something she's scared about for her son? And I don't know the answers to those. The dream is very trustworthy. It's what we call the phenomenology of the dream, meaning what's in the dream, not what we think is in the dream.
Right.
What we want to make, so-and-so is mad at me. How do you know? Well, I just know. Well, they're not doing anything in the dream. They may be in real waking life, but not in the dream. So we have to explore that. So see her go into your son's room and lay down. Is maybe he's not feeling, I don't know. Right now I'm in the blind here. Maybe there's a problem in his life that the mother is saying to the dreamer, he needs your attention. Maybe he's not grieving grandma or able to speak about it. And again, I do not know, but that's where we look for the event in the dream. And I'm using the word event, but in natural dream work, we actually call it the sacred encounter. We are encountering the sacred, and the sacred is the mother's at the door. And then I think another moment might be when the mom goes and lays in the son's room. She wants her to follow her there, I think. So what's going on?
Yeah, you answered it. And the question prior to that is, you can't just take the dream at the face value, right? You have to look at the components, and the message will then unfold, and you have to give it time and attention and be vulnerable enough to face those feelings that it might invoke in you or in the storyline. And so I want to move forward a little bit because our time is precious and we have about 20 minutes left. So that kind of moves me into helping those understand the difference between a visit and a dream. And I'm speaking primarily from the limited experience that I have in doing dream work, but the huge experience that I have in being a psychic medium and delivering messages across the veil. So in the thousands of people that I've worked with, in my own experience of crossing into the light and delving into the realm of psychic mediumship, I can tell you with certainty that when you receive a visit, it is a lot different than a dream. A visit typically comes with 3 messages from the dearly departed, and those messages are, I love you, I'm sorry, and I'm okay. And they typically happen fairly soon after the loved one passes, because the person alive is grieving so much. Perhaps they didn't get to say bye, or it was a traumatic experience, or the person who's living is just grieving so heavily they can't move to the healing phase because they're uncertain as to whether or not their loved one is okay. And so I will see a dearly departed loved one come through to deliver that message, just so that the living can take a breath and move towards their grieving. And I also see that it happens fairly soon after the person has departed, or if the living is, 2, 3, 5, 7 years into the grieving process and they're not healing and they're just sinking into a deep depression and they can't move forward, at that time a visit might happen as a gift to be delivered to say, hey, it's your time, I'm okay, we need to work on you right now. And it will allow the living to move into that healing phase. And people do ask me a lot of times of, well, how come I had a visit, or how come I didn't get a visit? I haven't had a visit and I want one. Why are they not coming to me? I get asked that all the time. It's
I
not
can answer
personal.
that scientifically.
Okay, and I'm going to answer it
Yeah,
spiritually.
yeah.
So this will be wonderful for both of us to receive that. So spiritually, when I ask the dearly departed that question, what I get is not a definitive answer. It's not, I can tell you, they say it's not personal. Sometimes they are unable to come through based on their energy level of coming through. It's not that they don't want to or they don't try. Sometimes it's they have come through, but you're so deep within your grief, you didn't get to remember or receive the dream. Sometimes they come through to your cousin, but not you, and you feel, you know, you feel upset because why did they come to cousin and not me? But oftentimes it may be because you're grieving so much and the cousin was open to receive, and then the cousin would deliver the message for you. One way or another, they're going to get to you and let you know that they're okay. If it's not in a visit, it doesn't mean that they haven't tried. It doesn't mean that they're not going to continue to try. It doesn't mean that they're too busy on the other side to come and connect with you. It just means that whatever form of communication, let's just say you're calling someone on the phone and you have no service. What's another way of you're going to connect with that person to get word to them? You're going to have to find another form of communication. And so that's a little reasoning behind why you might get a visit, why you might not, what visits mean and what the agenda behind a visit is versus a dream. But the main thing is not to take it personal. If you don't get the visit, there's a lot that goes into it. So I want to let you share the scientific part, because, and Mary Jo and I have not discussed this, so it may be completely different than what I just shared with you, but it would be nice for you to get different angles to that question. So I'll let you take it.
I think our answers are going to rhyme. We always say dreams are stories that want to be poems. So we're always looking for the rhyme in the dream.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing I would say, as far as getting a visit from a loved one, is the first question is, what is your relationship with your dreams? If we spend and this happens in hospice too, that's why there's dreams at end of life are scary. If we haven't been paying attention to our dreams our whole life, And then in hospice we do, or waiting for a loved one, it can feel like things are turning upside down. We don't understand what's going on. So first of all, do we have a relationship with our dreams? Um, there's a young fellow, and I'm calling him young, he's probably in his 40s, named Dr. Joshua Black, and he's in Canada, and he got his PhD in grief dreams. And he has it's called the Grief Dream Podcast. Wonderful young fellow. He's interviewed me on his program, and his research showed that, because I work with grief groups, and so it's kind of like, what am I doing wrong that I don't get this dream and other people are? He said it's based on dream recall. That's what his
Mm.
work has shown. If we don't remember our dreams, we may be dreaming of our loved ones. But if we haven't cultivated the recall coming back into consciousness upon awakening, it slips away. And so that is, for me, the one encouragement I would give people: begin this conversation, relationship with your dreams. You may have been getting them.
Absolutely. That's so true. People ask me or say all the time, I'm not getting signs from my loved ones. I can assure you they're trying to send you signs. You may be preoccupied, you may be depressed or grieving, you may be heavy in emotion, or not present, not in the now, living in the past. And the signs, the pennies, the dimes, the butterflies, the songs, the electrical manipulation are showing up, but you're oblivious to them. Same with dreams. Same with visits. You may get a visit and not be conscious enough to remember it. And so they're going to find another avenue to get to you. They may lead you to me, or they may lead you to Mary Jo, or they may lead you to a podcast that helps shine some light on their desire to gift you a message or to help you through something. So I can assure you that even if you don't get a visit or a sign like pennies from heaven, they are going to figure out a way to get to you. And I can assure you that your subconscious is going to figure out a way to bring and deliver a message for healing, for you to move through your grief and loss on whatever level you're ready to move through. The universe definitely has your back. God, your higher self, the angelic realm, your loved ones across the veil are here to guide and help you, to love and support you. They're not they're not going to abandon you in your hardest times, or even in your most lovely times. You will get a message one way or another, whether it's a visit, a dream, a sign, a symbol, a feeling. So trust that. And when you start paying attention to your dreams and you're seeing themes, or you're able to deliver a full storyline and you want to dissect it, reach out to Mary Jo or somebody in her community that can really break it down. Ask, be inquisitive, be curious, because there is something or someone that is definitely trying to connect with you. I want to move in just very quickly, because I also want to let everybody know how they can get in touch with Mary Jo and myself. I want to move into your experience in working with the dying, in relation to vision and dreams, with the people in hospice that you worked with, primarily about your experience of those that are just about ready to transition, and they are able to feel loved ones, spirit, the angelic realm, the ascended masters come into their space to invite them and welcome them home into the light. Because you can definitely, I've been with my share of people as they're transitioning, you can definitely feel that sense of peace and that love come over them, or you see them gaze right over your shoulder, or speak to someone sitting in the chair next to them, and physically you can't see who they're talking to. So share with us briefly about your experience of your take on when those in the spiritual realm, in the light, come for those who are about ready to cross, and what that experience is like.
Sure. I'll make a general statement, and then there
Mm-hmm.
might be questions coming from this. So I work with dreams every day. Like I said, all the full population of us. And so near death, I would say, even as close as 2 weeks from the death, those dreams folks are having are the very same dreams we're going to have tonight. They are the how do we come into alignment? How are we in our relationships? They're these beautiful teaching dreams, challenging. I always say they can pinch my ego, but that they're still having those dreams, and which tells us, do we want to wait till our deathbed to pay attention to our dreams? Then, as the death is approaching and getting closer in the last few days, this is when, and visions can happen to us anytime in our life, but that's another topic. But as the death is getting closer, then the dreams change and beings of support start to come in the dreams. And that might be a deceased loved one. And it might be another being, I would say someone numinous, an inner teacher. And they're oftentimes very comforting and very loving. I mean, the hands that are going to help us across the threshold are gorgeous. Visions start in those last few days. Can be longer because no death is the same. Every death is different. People may transition peacefully. They may struggle right to the end. But then visions start. And what's been beautiful in the medical field is there's a film going to be released, actually the 15th, called Death is But a Dream by Dr. Christopher Carr. He wrote a recommendation from my book. And he's a hospice CEO, chief medical officer. And this is about his work with, when the nurses knew first, he'd say, let's try this med. She'd go, they're seeing their dead relatives, they're dying. And so he became a believer. He's a wonderful gentleman. And so those visions now, the traditional medicine might want to say it's the meds, it's hallucinations.
Something happening in the brain as it begins to deteriorate.
Yes. And so I look at it, who am I to say? So when someone's seeing their deceased sister who died 50 years ago and wants to be with her, again, who am I to say that's not her? I honor that as she's seeing her sister. There's wiser hands in that room than I am. And we may not, and this is back to the humble part, we may not know what's happening in that moment, but something is. And we can trust that.
Definitely something is. And I tell my clients all the time, if you knew how many people, including your loved ones, the angelic realm, were around you at all times, you'd never feel alone. But that's specifically true when you're on your deathbed, or let's just say when you're in a coma and you're being invited, across the veil. There is a lot going on that the living can't see. And as a psychic medium, when I do readings, my clientele always want to know, will my loved one be there to meet me when I die? The answer is 100% absolutely yes, all the time. They ask, well, what if they've reincarnated already? Does that mean they're not going to meet me across the veil? No, that doesn't mean that. The rules and the laws are different on the other side than the world that we live in here, which is, one of me. On the other side, you're pure consciousness. You're not one body that can only be one place at one time. And so I want to reassure my listeners and my clients that even if you don't understand everything, I can reassure you from my own experience and as many readings that I've done, as well as the scientific realm, that there is something there. There is someone there, many there, to connect with you on that spiritual level in your time of transition. Even in your time of when the body's not physically shut down yet, but they may be in a coma, or they may just not be in consciousness completely. They float above themselves and they can see what's going on, and they kind of have one foot in the realm of the earthly realm and one foot in the spiritual realm, and they're testing the waters. I want you to know that the love and the light on the other side is so powerful, and it's so beautiful, and it reminds you of home and who you are, that you can't help but not want to be there. And so it's a celebration of your soul returning home. And as challenging as it might be for the living to release your loved one into that energy, I want to reassure you that it's so beautiful that you don't have to worry about them experiencing any more pain, about them forgetting you, about them not being present in every life, about them being confused or scared of death. All of that washes away. That's the love and light that they move into. You, the living, are the ones that have to deal with the grief, the pain, the loss, the surrender, the letting go, the memory. So we have a harder job here, and they know that. And that's why they choose to come through in readings. That's why they come through in visits, in dreams, in more ways than one, the butterfly that lands on your nose. They figure out a way to let you know that they're okay. So even in this topic of dream versus visit can be very confusing, but one thing is certain, I can tell you from my own experience of crossing over, they're in a very good place. They love you and they're surrounded by love in every capacity. They never go away except for maybe your current vision, but they're right here. They're not up here. They're right here, everywhere, all the time. And they hear you. They feel you. They're still part of your current lives. So remember that. They're going to be there for you when it's your time. They're going to visit you in your dreams, in your waking state always. So I hope that that brings some comfort in understanding the afterlife from that perspective, from a medium's perspective, and the present life as it comes from Mary Jo's or the scientific perspective that, like you said, it weaves together, right, Mary Jo? It weaves together information that will help you understand a little bit from both perspectives. So I hope we've given you a good overview of that. I do want to offer up some information on how you can get a hold of Mary Jo and her community that she works with as it relates to dreams, because I'm sure y'all have a ton of questions, a ton of dreams, and she can direct you to that. I also want her to share her book release that she's got two of them, I think, right, Mary Jo? Two books. I'd love for her to show you the books and the title, where you can get a hold of those books and where you can get a hold of her before we end. So I'll hand it over to you, Mary Jo.
Thank you. This has been a joy. And as I said when we opened, you can hear how much this is a precious conversation to Sean and to myself. This was just released. It's called Dreaming into the Mystery. And it's explorations into being with the dreams and visions of the dyings. And it's also personal reflections for the reader, guided imagery, because we're not a culture that is comfortable with death. And so I share my experiences with the dying. And right now it's available on Amazon on ebook or hard copy. And then the other one is Who Are Those Guys, which is really the companion book to a workshop I do, and it explores the myriad characters that come in our dreams. Who are those guys, those crazy guys?
Right.
And so both of those are out there. You can get in touch with me. I'll give my dream website is Mary Jo Heyen, HEYEN.com, all lowercase, MaryJoHeyen.com. You can get in touch with me there. I will also give you my email, which is mjheyen@gmail, if you have a follow-up question after today. And then the group that I work with and part of the founding team that got Natural Dreamwork going is called The Natural Dream, all lowercase, thenaturaldream.com. You can read more about us in general. We have right now 18 practitioners. I'm currently training 4 to become practitioners of Natural Dreamwork and work with their own clients. So there's lots of good information there.
I just want to say, thank you, Mary Jo, for attending. I hope that our listeners and our group of people that we work with or have yet to work with walk away with a better understanding about how deep dreams go. And they're not just something you throw out and say, what does this mean? It would do a great disservice to the dreamer if you or I were to really shorten the experience and and tell them that dictionary word and then put a message of that dream within a 5-10 minute, spiel, it would do them a great disservice, because there's a lot deeper message that medicine of that dream holds for them. So I just want to thank you again, and please reach out to either one of us if any of y'all have questions moving forward. Anything else you'd like to say before we end, Mary Jo?
I would just like to thank everyone who's here today. I just very much appreciate that there's this desire to know the deeper parts of who we are. That's what's going to heal this raggedy little planet.
So true. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful day, and we look forward to working with you on some capacity, whether it's here or in the astro. Take care.